Hi, everybody. How are you? Welcome to another Monday Morning Mentor on Tuesday morning. That's sort of becoming a habit for me. Maybe I need to change this to the Tuesday morning training or something like that because my Mondays have become incredibly full. But I'm very happy to come to you today. Hey, if you come on with us and you are watching this live, let me know. Say hashtag live. Let me know who you are and where you are tuning in from. If you're watching this on the replay, do the same thing. We're going to be talking today about frustration. Let's be honest, okay? How many of you can say that within the last 7 to 10 days, you have found yourself in a situation where you are frustrated? Now, frustrated. So I'm going to define what frustration is. I always believe that the definition of frustration is when expectations and reality collide. So what happens when expectations and reality collide? Well, typically frustration is the result. Now, today's my last day on a 11-day road trip. I'll be going back to Phoenix today here in about a couple hours. I'll be home for a few days, and then I'll be in Nashville coming up. But I have been in Chicago, I've been in Los Angeles, I've been in Dallas, and just having a blast. But a few things have happened, okay, that have caused some frustration. And here's what happens. When you allow frustration to begin to control you, you lose the ability to have control over a situation. One of my mentors, a guy by the name of Art Mazmanian, always told me, he said, Chad, never ever let somebody hurt your feelings, because if you let them hurt your feelings, you hand them control over your life. And the same thing happens with frustration. When you allow yourself to be frustrated and you focus in the moment, or excuse me, you focus all of your efforts and attention on that frustration, what you've done is you've taken your life and you've given it control. You've handed it over. So what I want to do today is I want to help you put your frustration in check, okay? Put frustration in check. That's really what I want to do. Now, let's talk a little bit, okay? Some of you are in situations where people have let you down and it has caused you frustration. Perhaps you try to launch a business and it's failing and you are frustrated, or maybe it's not making as much money as you want. It's frustration. It's frustrating. Maybe you've launched a product and you believe this was going to be the end all be all for you. This was going to be the break that you needed, and it's not working and you are frustrated. Maybe you're in the middle of a relationship and you hate it. And every time you come home to him or every time you come home to her, they just are a source of frustration to you because expectations consistently collide. Maybe you're just coming out of a broken relationship and you're looking at yourself and you're like, I don't like who I am. I blew that. And you're frustrated today. I completely relate with you. When I was in Los Angeles, was with Liz Benny, and we were doing a little bit of work, and we left. And I ended up getting pickpocketed. Have you ever been pickpocketed before? Well, that was the first for me. And somebody nabbed my wallet. And if you think about this, I mean, my driver's license was in there, all my credit cards was in there, my money was in there, for crying out loud, my Costco card was in there, okay? Everything was in there, and they took that card. Have you ever tried to get on an airplane without ID? That's a little difficult to do. Have you ever tried to buy stuff without any money? Yeah, that's a little bit difficult to do. And something happened to me, which actually propelled me to do this training today. I was really surprised how that didn't bug me. I mean, somebody stole my wallet, and that did not bug me. And I began thinking about why. Well, I remember back in November, I was just coming out of a pretty bad chapter in my life, and I was beginning to rebound, and some really great things were happening for me this past November. And I ran into Liz. She asked me to speak at one of her masterminds in the Phoenix area. And when we were doing some preparation for the mastermind, she was just blah, 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 talking normal. Sorry, Liz, I wasn't saying you blah, 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 but you know what I'm saying. You were just talking, and then all of a sudden you let something slip out of your mouth. And here's what she said, and I want you to remember this because I really believe that this can help you as we lay the foundation for our training today. She said, people with small mindsets have bad days, have bad weeks, have bad months, and have bad years. But people with winning mindsets have bad moments. And that hit me so powerful. And I was like, you know what? I don't have to allow the negativity of my circumstances and the negativity of my situation to bring me down. I don't have to fuel that frustration flame any more than what is necessary. I don't have to be aggravated. I don't have to be depressed. I don't have to, be mad at circumstances, situation. I don't have to do that. I actually have the ability within me to just be Teflon and to just let it roll off of me. And I can choose to have a bad moment, not a bad month, not a bad day, not a bad week, not a bad year, not a bad chapter in my life, not a bad season of my business. I can choose to simply have a bad moment. I'm going to rest in that moment. I'm going to own that moment. I'm going to allow myself to pity myself in that moment. But then I'm going to give that moment permission to cease. And that just wow, that rocked my world. And ever since then, I found myself having bad moments, but I don't have bad days anymore. And it's all right here. And I never really believed in the whole mindset thing, okay? I always thought that it was one of those overhyped things. And I think in a lot of ways we do overhype, but I think there's a lot of people making a lot of money on fictitious mindset things. But there are certain elements of mindset that you have to have grasp over it, or your mind is going to grab you, okay? And so this frustration is one of those. So what happens when expectations and reality collide? First and foremost today, I want you to commit to me on this training that you are going to choose that you will give yourself permission to have a bad moment, but you will not have a bad day. You will not have a bad week. You will not have a bad month. You will not have a bad year. You'll simply have a bad moment, and you are going to take back control and power of your life, and you're not going to hand it to frustration. So here's the thing. You have a choice. You have a choice to either be a victim of your circumstances or to be victorious in your circumstances. That mindset is determined by how you ultimately handle things, okay? How you ultimately handle things. So what I want to do is I want to give you a little training today on how to put your frustration in check. So the first check that you're going to do is what I call the stability check, the stability check, okay? You have to ask yourself the question, are you stable? Okay, are you stable? I remember when I was a college athlete, and we'd be playing incredibly hard, and we would get hurt, okay? And our trainer taught us the ability to discern between are we hurt or are we injured, okay? Are we hurt or are we injured? And they taught us very early on in my college days how to decipher the two. Because, see, you can play through pain. You can play through being hurt, but you cannot play, or you should not play, if you are injured. You see, hurt simply is a temporary reaction to a problem, but ultimately that's just going to dissipate, okay, in a matter of minutes or in a matter of moments. You can play through that hurt. You can play through that. But if you're injured and you play through that injury, then you're going to further injure yourself and you're going to ruin and wreck your career. So they taught us, like if we fell down and our knee hurt, they taught us to do a stability check, a certain checklist of things that we needed to do to determine whether we were stable or not, stable enough to get up and play again, or whether we were unstable and we needed to lay there and let the trainer come out and work on it. So there were certain things that we did. If we felt our knee hurt, there were certain movements that we had to do with our knee to see if we were stable. If we hit our head, there were places that we had to touch and certain feelings that we were doing and numbness that we had to look out for to find out whether we were stable or not. Well, your stability in life and your stability in relationships and your stability in your business will determine how much your foundation is rocked when your circumstances do not go your way. Okay, if your foundation is stable and something negative comes at you, you may be displaced for a little bit, but it will not ultimately rock your world. You need to do things consistently to build your foundation so you are stable. Okay, I was one of the lucky ones that I played 4 years high school and 4 years college basketball, and I only sustained one minor injury in all 8 years of playing. I never had bad knees. I never had bad backs. I never did anything. It was toward my junior year in college. I suffered a freak accident that set me out for about a half a game. But I was really, 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 really lucky. Well, one of the reasons why I was lucky was because my body was always stable. I never took massive risk, okay, with my body. I always protected my body. I did the things that I needed to do when I was in high school and college to make my body stable. So therefore, when I got into the heat of the battle, nothing really rocked me all that great. Some of you know what this is like. Have you ever seen a gal who's just gone through hell and back? And they come through and they go through that circumstance with such grace. And you're like, how does she handle that? How does she handle things? Man, that would have ruined me. How did she do that? And on the other hand, have you seen people who go through the slightest of issues and all of a sudden they're just devastated? Like, oh my gosh, I can't believe what this person did. It's like, holy heck, people, just take a freaking chill pill already, right? Well, that's based on your stability, okay? Remember, you need to be stable. You need to make a decision that you will have a bad moment, not a bad day, a week, a month, or a year. And when you get in the circumstances, you need to recognize that you're in the circumstance. You need to do a stability check on yourself, and you need to ask yourself, how wrecked is this going to make me? And do I have the ability to recover and recover quickly? Are you with me? That's a huge, massive issue for so many of you. Some of you just simply need to make a choice to get stable. Maybe you need a routine. Maybe you need some counseling. Maybe you need to surround yourself with solid people. Maybe you need people who love you enough to just tell you to shut up and stop whining and complaining about your issues, because it's so easy to complain. It is so easy to complain. And if you're not careful, what happens is you will complain about the slightest of things, and things that are really minor, you will fuel and make major, like in a second, okay? That happens to me when I get frustrated, okay? And I get angry, and I don't recognize that I'm frustrated or recognize that I'm angry, or that I'm hungry and I need some protein. I can take the slightest thing and I can exaggerate it and make it really, really big. The worst one is like, like if I'm like at a fast food restaurant or something, and like I'll say, I'll be at a drive-through and I'll say, okay, I'll take a Big Mac with cheese and a large fry and a drink. And they'll say, okay, you want an apple pie with a coffee? I'm like, no, I want a Big Mac with cheese. Sir, can you speak up? We cannot hear you. And I'm like, I want a Big Mac with cheese. And they're like, sir, can you please pull? I'm like, like those little things. I'm like, why does that frustrate me so much? The reason is because there are moments in life when my circumstances are outstanding that I have not done a stability check and caught myself and said, no, you are going to be a rock through the situation, and you're going to choose to have a bad moment, not a bad day, not a bad week, not a bad month, not a bad year. You're going to make a decision to be stable. You need to do a stability check. The second check that you need to do is you need to do a reality check. Okay, you need to do a reality check. Okay, so what happens when expectations and reality collide? Many times we get frustrated. So you need to do a reality check. And the question is how realistic were your expectations? Okay, how realistic were your expectations? Because here's what happens. Inflated expectations cause inflated disappointment. Okay? Inflated expectations cause inflated disappointment. If you've inflated your expectation about a certain situation and then it does not fulfill, then it will inflate your disappointment. This will never. Let me just give you a practical, non-personal illustration. A few years ago, I went to Europe, and I did a 2-week tour through Europe, and I ended up in Scotland. And my sister was getting married at the Blair Castle. Okay, the Blair Castle is an incredibly beautiful castle. You can Google it. It's in Blair Athol, Scotland. Beautiful. In fact, I have pictures of me in a kilt and doing the wedding, and it was so much fun. But I had these huge expectations when my sister told me that we were going to be staying in the castle. So all of a sudden, my mind goes to these romantic movies, like where I think it's like My Best Friend's Wedding or whatever it is, like where they were staying in the Scottish castle, and I'm like, this is going to be awesome. There's going to be stones around me, and these stairs are going to be stairs that knights have climbed, and royalty and princesses and all this. And so I finally get the cab, and I'm going up to this castle there in Scotland. It is magnificent. It is beautiful. Like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? And then we go in, and I go to check in, and then they give me the key to my room. It's one of those really cool keys. It looks like an old-fashioned like lock key, and it's not a normal key. It's like a cool castle key. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be awesome. And then they show me where my room is. It's not in the castle at all. It's down a little driveway, past the sheep pen, past the barns, past all the stuff, and it's basically a double wide trailer, like literally a double freaking wide trailer on the grounds. And I'm like, this is where I'm staying? This is where I'm sleeping? And what happened was then my expectation was inflated, and now what happened was my disappointment was inflated as well, because inflated expectations, inflated expectations by default inflate your disappointment. And so here's what happens. So many of us are putting expectations on people. Maybe you're in a relationship and you're inflating your expectation of what you want back from that person. And when they don't deliver it to you at the level that you want, your disappointment is inflated. And when and you can't recover from it. And so now what you do is you end up breaking up with somebody, or you end up walking away from somebody. Maybe you hire someone to do a job for you. And you have inflated expectations, and they come back and they do a good job, but it's not up at your expectation level, and now your disappointment is inflated, and it sort of has a tendency to ruin ruin a relationship. You have to be careful here. So here's the thing that I want you to know. Your value and your worth should not rest on the performance of others. Your value and your worth should not rest and rely on the performance of others. If you are putting your value into the hands of someone else, you will probably more than likely be disappointed. I tell people this all the time. I'm a business coach. I'm a launch strategist. I do funnels and stuff like that. And there are days when I just do incredible work. And then there are days when I suck. And I always tell people, and so I've had some people come and say, "Oh my gosh, Chad, you're the greatest thing ever." And I've had some people come and say, "Dude, you disappointed me." And that's always hit me. And I'm like, the success or failure of your business cannot rely solely upon my performance. It can't. Because you ultimately will be disappointed. Because if your business is not successful, then what you're going to do is, instead of owning it, instead of changing the things that you can change, you're going to be looking for someone to make to blame and make an excuse. And that's the worst place to be. In any circumstance in life, when we begin to fail, if we don't turn that mirror and look at ourselves and say, listen, I'm the one that's going to take responsibility on that. If we're going on a hunt looking for someone to blame, I promise you that your expectation will be elevated. And when your expectation gets elevated, your disappointment will be elevated. So you cannot blame others. Your value and your worth cannot and should not rest on the performance of others. That's a bad way to do life. It's a bad way to do business. It's a bad way to do relationships. It's a bad way to do ministry. Do not put your value and your worth based upon the performance of others. Instead, what you need to do is you need to learn how to live a victorious lifestyle. Now, what is a victorious lifestyle? A victorious lifestyle is one of those lifestyles that say, I may never succeed up to the expectations of others, but I will always live up to my own expectations. Some of you, listen to me, some of you never live up to your own expectations. You have an elevated expectation level for yourself, and it doesn't matter how good you are. It doesn't matter how well you perform. You never feel victorious because you've never allowed yourself the ability to win. Forget others for a moment. You've never allowed yourself the ability to be victorious. When was the last time you complimented yourself? When was the last time you did a talk and you're like, you know what? I did a good job with that talk. When was the last time you built a website or did some copywriting and you're like, you know what? I did a really good job with that. You know what happens with so many of us? What so many of us do is we live a defeated lifestyle, which means every time we perform and we do something, the first thing we do is we critique it. Okay, the first thing we do is critique it. I was in a long-term relationship like that, and literally I couldn't take it anymore. This particular person in my life, if I would speak on stage, okay, and it didn't matter how well of a job I did, the first words out of this person's mouth was negative. Oh, well, you spoke too long. Oh, did you notice how many times you said okay? Oh, that story, that bombed, didn't it? Right? It was always something negative right out of the get-go, and it just like pushed me down. And I used to get so mad at this particular person for doing that. Then I said, you know what? That's stupid, because I'm trying to put my value and my worth based on what she is telling me, and I've got to stop doing that. I need to be strong enough internally and allow my value and my worth to be based upon my victorious mindset that says I'm going to allow myself to win. I'm going to allow myself to be successful. I'm going to find the great in what I do instead of always looking for the negative in what I do. Sometimes we live in such a self-improvement society where we're always trying to improve that we never take time to look how great we are. We don't. Okay, so what I'm going to tell you is, yes, you need to improve, okay, but use the 80-20 method. Okay, 80% of the time, you need to look at the greatness inside of you. 80% of the time, you need to recognize how powerful you actually are as a human, how powerful you actually are as a husband, how powerful you are as a wife, how powerful you are as a boyfriend, how successful you are as a girlfriend, how successful you are in business. You need to look at the great things that are in you and around you 80% of the time. And 20% of the time, you can reflect and introspect and find out what are 2 or 3 things that you can do to improve. But if it's flip-flops, you will be negative and you will never live a victorious lifestyle. Why? Because your value and your worth will be resting in the hands of others, and you can't do that. You have got to own that. You have to understand who you are. If you're religious and you're spiritual, the Bible says in Ephesians that you need to find your identity in Christ. Okay, if you're not religious, you're not spiritual, you need to be able to look in that mirror and you need to be able to understand that you have value and you have worth. Okay, because you are a created being, created for a purpose, and you have done so much good in this world, and you have done so much good to others that you need to be living a victorious lifestyle. And if you're consistently living a victim lifestyle, which means I'm always nitpicking at what I don't do well, or always nitpicking at what somebody else doesn't do well, you will become negative Nelly quickly, and nobody will want to be around you. Okay, when I do my teachings and trainings and coaching and stuff like that, okay, I typically am relatively successful at it, not because I'm a great coach, not because I'm a great teacher, but one thing I have learned to do is I have learned to affirm people where they are. Listen, you and I are affirmation addicts. We are fueled by affirmation, okay? Even God himself, he looked at all the things in the garden and he said, I love all of that, but this one thing I don't like. And he had to go and improve that very thing that he didn't like. And what he didn't like was he didn't like the fact that man was alone and he had to create a woman, okay? But God looked at 95% of the things that he had created and said, I like it. So many times we focus on that one thing that he said that he didn't like. But I want you to realize that even God himself affirmed himself. He said, everything that I have made and everything that I have created, I love. I did a great job with. I was incredible. But this one thing, I needed to improve. How would scriptures be different if he said, let there be light? That sun that I created? Yeah. I probably should have done a better job. I'll refine that one of these days. Probably shouldn't be a perfect circle. I bet the heat on that fire probably could be a little bit warmer. Maybe I could push it out just 1 inch further so Arizona doesn't get so hot. I mean, how weird would scripture be if that's what God did? Right? But doesn't it say that we're made and created in his image? If God affirmed everything that he did, but he only looked at one thing and said, I need to improve, why can't we do the same thing? Right? Because that's how you live a victorious lifestyle. So you have to have a reality check How realistic are your expectations on others and on yourself and on your certain situations? Remember, inflated expectations cause inflated disappointment. Now, the third check that I want you to do is what we call the forgiveness check. Okay, the forgiveness check. Okay, the forgiveness check. What unresolved issues do you need to settle? Because here's what happens, is when we have things in our past that we have not brought resolution to, that past, your past is pesky. And your past becomes present in your present, which ultimately will become present in your future. What things in your past do you not have resolved that you need to bring resolution to? Because if you don't bring resolution to those, okay, it will cause you to rest and harp on those past things. And then here's what happens. You begin to transfer your issues from yesterday onto other people in your present. Okay, think about this. If you haven't resolved things in your past, you will transfer your past to people in your present, and it will negatively impact your future. Okay? I don't know how many times in like you go on a date with somebody or whatever, and they'll say, well, that's just me. You're going to have to forgive me because I came out of a really crappy relationship. Okay? I get it. I understand it. I wasn't your crappy relationship. But yet you're transferring the hurt and the pain from yesterday onto a person today. So what you're doing is you're actually making the person in your present a victim along with you of your past. And what you're doing is you're saying that, listen, I'm not interested in being with you and moving toward the future. What I'm interested in doing is I'm interested in taking you back with me so you can be a victim with me, so you can experience that pain with me. And sometimes what happens is if you don't resolve the issues of yesterday, you transfer them onto the people and the circumstances of today. And what you do is you consistently turn your back. Watch this. You'll turn your back on your future and you'll focus on your past. Now, this doesn't always have to be negative. Your past actually could have been incredibly successful. And this is what I was doing. I had an incredibly successful past. Okay, say what the heck you want to about me. I was one hell of a pastor. Okay, I love my people. Our churches grew. I was creative. I was a good communicator. Okay, I loved being a pastor. But there for a while after I stopped being a pastor, all I could do was focus on my past, and I was looking back at the success of yesterday, and I was not allowing myself to be successful today, which means I could not be successful tomorrow. And what you have to do is you have to do a forgiveness check. Some of you need to forgive people in your past. Some of you need to forgive yourself in the past so you can focus on the present. But some of you also need to divorce. Here's what I mean by that. Some of you need to divorce yourself from the success and failure of yesterday so you can fall in love with the person of today and marry the success of tomorrow. Did that make sense to you? Some of you need to go in your past. I had to do this with some people in my family. Hardest thing that I've ever had to do. Okay? Those of you who are really close to me know that I don't get along well with my mom and dad. And my mom and dad are really good people. I'm a really good person. But we don't get along very well at all. And when I'm around them, I bring them down and they bring me down. And I had to come to a situation in my life where I had to just lovingly divorce my mom and dad. Now, I don't want that to be that way forever, but I had to do it for a season because I had to give myself permission to stop focusing on all the crap that they gave me in my past. I could not move forward unless I stopped focusing on that. So I had to divorce the situation of my life so I could focus on the present. I could take care of me. I could heal. I could become powerful again. Now my future can be successful. And then when I'm relishing in my victorious lifestyle, a healthy me, a whole me, a healed me can go back to my pain. And my 44-year-old self can go back to my childhood self and say, listen, it's going to be okay. But I can bring strength and resolve to that situation. I'm not going to bring a victim's mindset to that situation. So you have to do what I call the forgiveness check. Some of you have got to go back to your past and give yourself permission to forgive all the crap that you did in yesterday. Some of it's pretty horrific. Some of you have done some bad things. I've done some bad things. Okay, but listen, that's what grace is for. Okay, that's what grace is for. Grace isn't for people who are perfect. Grace is for the imperfect. And grace is what makes imperfect people perfect. I remember having a conversation just a few days ago with a very high, powerful marketer. And this particular person was trying to tell me how imperfect they were. And I was like, stop. You are perfect. Some of you ladies have had so many guys tell you all the things that you need to improve in your life that you think that you are imperfect. And you think that you got to do this and this and this and this and this and this and this in order to elevate to the point where they can grace you with the privilege of them being in your life. Listen, you need to look at yourself in the mirror and say, you know what? I am perfect. Why are you perfect? Do you have imperfections and flaws? Hell yeah, you do. But you are perfect because of the freaking grace of God, right? Grace coming down, divine grace isn't for perfect people. Divine grace is what makes imperfect people perfect, okay? That's what makes imperfect people perfect. I don't care what religion you buy into, okay? I don't. You will never be able to out-perfect the grace of God. No matter how perfect you strive to be or how perfect you try to be, you still will need grace in order to reach perfection, okay? So what you need to do is you need to say, because I have to have grace, I'm going to give myself permission to forgive myself and to forgive others in my past, because I will not transfer the frustration from yesterday onto the people of today. And I refuse to allow the people of today to focus on what is bad about me. I give myself permission to excommunicate those people from my life and only put people in my life who love me for who I am and where I am. And they will 80% of the time brag on me, complicate me, fill my jar up, fill my tanks up, and they will move me forward. But yet they will love me enough that 20% of the time they will work with me and help me to get better at who I am and what I do. You have to do the forgiveness check. You have to forgive others. You have to forgive yourself. Remember, when expectations and reality collide, frustration is the result. People with a winning mindset have bad moments. People with bad mindsets, with small mindsets, have bad days, have bad weeks, have bad months, and have bad years. Which mindset are you going to have? One that says, I give myself permission to be frustrated, but I also give myself permission not to stay there. See, frustration many times can happen because of the results of others. Okay, or not the results, excuse me. They happen because of the reality of others and their negative influence and impact on you and your circumstances. But whether you stay there or not, ultimately, is up to you. So you can't be successful in your relationships with small mindsets. You can't be successful in business with a small mindset. You can't get promoted with a small mindset. Okay, all those positive things that you're looking for in life come because of a winning mindset. So which mindset are you going to have? So, well, hey, I didn't mean to put on my preacher hat this morning for you, but this is, I wrote this last week when I was going through some stuff, and it just resonated with me, and I just needed to teach that today, and so I hope this benefited you in one way or the other. I want you to ask one question to yourself as well. Have you ever known some people who are looking to be frustrated? I mean, literally, you're looking to be frustrated, like all is normal, but your life just doesn't seem complete unless you got drama in it, okay? And some of us look for frustration. I remember we had some really good friends. I have some really good friends, and we went to this particular steakhouse with them, okay? And one time we went to a steakhouse with them. I think this guy ordered his steak like medium, and he got it like medium rare. It was a little too bloody for him. And so he sent it back, and they brought it back, and then it was well done. And then so we complained and griped about it. And then they brought him another steak, and it wasn't like, he literally went back and forth with like 3 steaks. And I'm like, dude, that's like $100 that you just wasted because your meat was just a little too pink or not pink enough. And I understand they're a steakhouse, they should do well. But so then the next time we went back to that steakhouse, he made sure that everybody in the restaurant knew that the last time he was here, he had a bad experience. And when they brought the steak out, he cut it in half and he picked it up and he held it to the light. And I'm literally thinking that he probably like had a shade of pink and then he sent it back and on we get to the point where I'm like, I can't go to dinner with you anymore. Why? Because this person was looking to be frustrated. Okay. And when you look to be frustrated, when you are on a divine hunt to find frustration because your life just isn't normal unless you have drama, guess what? You're going to find it. You're going to find it. If you're on a hunt to consistently find the negativity in others, you're going to find it. Okay? Stop being a victim and be victorious. Take control of it. I see what you guys are saying. I can't scroll up too far. Lori says, crushing your 40 goal. Heck yeah, Lori. Trevor, what's up, Trevor? Hi, Chad, sunny and happy here in England. Awesome, buddy. Audrey says, I'm going through this exact thing. Well, we're here for you, Audrey. Russ says, what's up, dog? Melanie gives me a heart. Lori says, powerful. Elizabeth says, testify. Not today. Awaking, it's beautiful. Melanie says, right, Elizabeth. Lori says, I commit. Melanie says, not today, Satan. Haley McCoy gives me a big thumbs up. What's up, Haley? Elizabeth says, I'm in the process of eliminating bad moments. Melanie says, right, et cetera, et cetera. Rebecca says, I need you in my life every day. My past has made me grow. My past is amazing. My success in all areas in the future. I love it. Just seeing your smile benefits me. Oh, Rebecca, you're too kind. Thank you so much. Well, guys, I got to go get on an airplane. I love you guys. Appreciate you. Thank you for letting me come into your home today. And if you need anything, as always, we're just a text message away. God bless. Have a great day.